They belittled her F-35 training, but she crushed 18 enemy fighters in one operation. Captain Sarah Mitchell had always dreamed of flying fighter jets. Growing up in a small Texas town, she would lie on her back in the wheat fields watching military aircraft streak across the sky during training exercises from the nearby air base. Her father, a mechanic, told her that girls didn't become fighter pilots. Her high school guidance counselor suggested she consider nursing or teaching instead. But Sarah had fire in her heart and steel in her determination. After graduating from the Air Force Academy with top honors, Sarah entered pilot training. The instructors were tough on everyone, but they seemed especially hard on the few women in the program. During her early training flights, male cadets would whisper jokes about girls playing with big toys and question whether women had the physical strength and mental toughness for combat situations. Sarah ignored the comments and focused on her flying. She studied harder than anyone else, spending extra hours in the simulator and memorizing every technical manual. When assignments came down for advanced fighter training, Sarah requested the F-35 Lightning II program. The F-35 was the military's newest and most advanced fighter jet, packed with cutting-edge technology and stealth capabilities. It was also the most challenging aircraft to master. The selection board initially hesitated. Some officers questioned whether the expensive training investment would be worth it for a female pilot who might not see real combat action. Colonel Robert Hayes, the gruff commander overseeing pilot assignments, had serious doubts about Sarah. He had been flying fighters for 25 years and came from the old school of military thinking. During Sarah's interview, he leaned back in his chair and asked pointed questions about her commitment to military service and whether she planned to start a family soon. Sarah answered each question directly and professionally, but she could see the skepticism in his eyes. Despite the resistance, Sarah's test scores and flight performance were impossible to ignore. She had achieved perfect marks in aerial combat simulations and demonstrated exceptional situational awareness during complex training scenarios. Her instructors admitted, grudgingly, that she had natural flying instincts. The military needed skilled F-35 pilots, and Sarah's abilities couldn't be denied, even by those who preferred not to acknowledge them. The F-35 training program was brutal. Sarah found herself in a class of 12 pilots, and she was the only woman. The aircraft itself was incredibly sophisticated, with advanced radar systems, stealth technology, and computer systems that required split-second decision-making. During ground school, Sarah absorbed every detail about the jet's capabilities, weapons systems, and tactical applications. She learned about the aircraft's ability to share targeting data with other planes and ground forces, creating a networked battlefield advantage. Her fellow trainees weren't openly hostile, but they weren't welcoming either. During breaks between training sessions, they would cluster together, discussing tactics and sharing experiences, while Sarah often found herself studying alone. Some made comments about the program being softened to accommodate different types of pilots. Others questioned whether she would crack under pressure during actual combat situations. The flight training pushed every pilot to their limits. The F-35 was unlike any aircraft Sarah had flown before. Its advanced systems required constant monitoring, and the stealth capabilities meant flying in ways that felt counterintuitive. During her first few flights, Sarah struggled with the information overload from the aircraft's sophisticated displays and targeting systems. Her instructors noted every mistake and seemed to expect her to fail, but Sarah had something that couldn't be taught or measured in standard evaluations. She had an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. During simulated combat scenarios, while other pilots became overwhelmed by multiple threats and complex tactical situations, Sarah seemed to slow down time in her mind. She could process multiple streams of information simultaneously and make rapid decisions that consistently surprised her instructors. As weeks passed, Sarah's performance in training exercises began to stand out. She consistently scored among the top pilots in air-to-air combat simulations and showed exceptional skill in the F-35's ground attack capabilities. Her understanding of the aircraft's stealth characteristics and how to maximize their effectiveness impressed even the most skeptical instructors. However, the whispers and doubts continued. Some attributed her success to luck, or claimed that training scenarios were different from real combat situations. Sarah's final training evaluation arrived on a cold morning in November. The test would determine whether she qualified for operational F-35 missions or would be reassigned to transport aircraft or training duties. The scenario was designed to be nearly impossible. She would face multiple enemy aircraft while simultaneously protecting ground forces and coordinating with Allied planes. Most pilots barely passed this evaluation, and many failed completely. Major Thompson, her primary flight instructor, explained the test parameters with his usual stern expression. He had been flying fighters for 15 years and had seen many confident pilots crumble under pressure. He told Sarah that the evaluation would push her beyond anything she had experienced in training. Multiple instructors would be monitoring her performance, and there would be no room for major errors. Sarah climbed into the cockpit of her F-35 with steady hands. She had spent the previous night reviewing tactical manuals and visualizing different combat scenarios. As the aircraft systems came online, she felt the familiar surge of focus that came with serious flying. The heads-up display showed weather conditions, tactical information, and communications channels. Everything looked normal, but Sarah knew that would change rapidly once the evaluation began. The test started innocuously enough. Sarah's mission was to patrol a designated area and provide air support for simulated ground forces. For the first 20 minutes, she flew standard patterns while monitoring radio communications and scanning for potential threats. Then the scenario exploded into chaos. Enemy aircraft appeared on multiple vectors. Ground forces reported incoming attacks, and Allied aircraft requested immediate assistance. Sarah's training kicked in automatically. She identified the primary threats, prioritized targets based on danger to friendly forces, and began engaging multiple enemy aircraft simultaneously. The F-35's advanced radar systems allowed her to track numerous contacts, while remaining nearly invisible to enemy detection. She fired missiles at long range, then closed distance for gun attacks when ammunition ran low. What happened next surprised everyone monitoring the evaluation. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by the complex scenario, Sarah seemed to thrive in the chaotic environment. She used the F-35's stealth capabilities to position herself advantageously, striking enemy aircraft before they realized she was there. Her communication with ground forces was clear and professional, even while managing multiple air-to-air engagements. During one particularly challenging sequence, Sarah faced 6 enemy fighters while protecting a convoy of ground vehicles. Standard tactics called for defensive maneuvering and calling for backup. Instead, Sarah used the terrain and the F-35's stealth characteristics to separate the enemy formation. She picked off individual aircraft methodically, using superior positioning and the element of surprise to defeat numerically superior forces. The instructors watching the evaluation exchanged glances. Sarah was performing at a level they rarely saw from experienced combat pilots, let alone someone fresh from training. Her situational awareness was exceptional, and her decision-making under pressure was consistently sound. Major Thompson found himself leaning forward in his monitoring station, genuinely impressed despite his initial skepticism. As the evaluation continued, Sarah demonstrated mastery of every F-35 system and capability. She used the aircraft's advanced sensors to locate hidden enemy positions, coordinated attacks with simulated Allied forces, and adapted her tactics as the scenario evolved. When equipment malfunctions were introduced to test her problem-solving abilities, she quickly diagnosed issues and implemented workarounds without compromising mission effectiveness. The final phase of the evaluation presented Sarah with an impossible choice. Enemy forces were attacking 2 separate locations simultaneously, and she had insufficient weapons and fuel to address both threats completely. Most pilots would choose one target and accept losses at the other location. Sarah studied her tactical display for several seconds, then implemented a creative solution that used the F-35's networking capabilities to coordinate with distant Allied aircraft and redirect attacks more effectively. When the evaluation ended, Sarah landed her aircraft with the same calm precision she had maintained throughout the test. She completed post-flight procedures methodically, then reported to the debriefing room where her instructors were waiting. Their expressions were unreadable, and Sarah prepared herself for criticism and suggestions for improvement. Major Thompson cleared his throat and looked at his notes. He had been prepared to deliver a standard post-evaluation critique, pointing out areas where Sarah needed additional training. Instead, he found himself reviewing performance scores that exceeded expectations in every category. Her tactical decision-making had been innovative and effective. Her aircraft handling had been flawless. Her communication and coordination with other units had been exemplary. The room remained silent for several moments. Sarah waited patiently, maintaining her professional demeanor while wondering whether she had passed or failed the crucial evaluation. She knew she had performed well, but military evaluations could be unpredictable, especially when politics and personal opinions influenced decisions. Major Thompson finally broke the silence with words that would change Sarah's military career forever. Her evaluation scores were among the highest recorded in the F-35 training program's history. She had not only passed every requirement, but had demonstrated exceptional skill that impressed veteran instructors. However, Thompson's tone suggested there were complications beyond her performance scores. Colonel Hayes entered the debriefing room with a folder of assignment papers. His expression remained skeptical despite Sarah's outstanding evaluation results. He explained that while her flying skills were undeniable, there were concerns about assigning her to frontline combat units. Some senior officers worried that integrating a female pilot into all-male fighter squadrons might create distractions or unit cohesion problems. Sarah listened to these concerns with growing frustration but maintained her professional composure. She had heard similar arguments throughout her military career, and they never became easier to accept. The assumption that her presence would somehow compromise unit effectiveness felt particularly insulting after her exceptional training performance. However, she knew that arguing would only reinforce stereotypes about women being emotional or difficult to work with. The compromise assignment offered to Sarah was a reconnaissance and training unit stationed at a relatively quiet base in the Pacific. She would fly F-35 missions, but they would primarily involve surveillance, training exercises with allied nations, and patrol duties in peaceful areas. It was a significant step down from the combat assignments given to her male classmates, most of whom scored lower on their evaluations. Sarah accepted the assignment without complaint, knowing that refusing would likely end her fighter pilot career entirely. She understood that military politics often mattered more than performance, and she was determined to prove herself worthy of better opportunities. Her new squadron, based on a small island installation, consisted mainly of older pilots nearing retirement or those recovering from injuries. Squadron Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Martinez, welcomed Sarah professionally, but made it clear that he expected no special treatment requests or drama. He had commanded the unit for 3 years and preferred the quiet routine of training missions and routine patrols. The arrival of a highly qualified F-35 pilot was unusual for his squadron, which typically received pilots who were being eased out of frontline duties. Sarah's new squadron mates were initially curious about her background and training scores. Most had heard rumors about the exceptional female pilot who had dominated F-35 training evaluations. However, they quickly settled into treating her as just another pilot, which was exactly what Sarah wanted. She focused on learning the unit's procedures and proving her competence through consistent performance. The daily routine involved training flights, maintenance duties, and occasional patrols over shipping lanes. Sarah found the work less challenging than her training exercises, but she used the opportunity to master every aspect of F-35 operations. She flew with different pilots, learning their techniques and sharing her own knowledge. Her technical expertise and calm demeanor gradually earned respect from squadron members. During joint training exercises with Allied forces, Sarah's skills became more apparent. She consistently outperformed pilots from other nations and demonstrated tactical innovations that impressed visiting instructors. Word began spreading through military channels about the exceptional F-35 pilot stationed at the remote Pacific base. However, these reports were often dismissed or downplayed by officials who preferred not to acknowledge that their best pilot was assigned to a backwater. Unit Sarah's breakthrough came during a routine training exercise with Japanese self-defense forces. The scenario involved coordinated air defense against simulated enemy attacks. Sarah was assigned a supporting role, expected to provide reconnaissance and communications support while more senior pilots handled primary combat responsibilities. However, the exercise quickly became more complex than planned. Technical problems with communication systems left several aircraft unable to coordinate effectively. The exercise commander was considering calling off the training when Sarah requested permission to take lead coordination duties. Using her F-35's advanced networking capabilities, she established alternative communication links and reorganized the entire air defense plan in real time. What followed was a masterclass in tactical coordination and F-35 capabilities. Sarah guided Allied aircraft through complex intercept patterns, identified and prioritized threats, and managed air traffic in contested airspace. Japanese pilots later commented that they had never seen such effective coordination from a single aircraft. The exercise concluded with complete mission success and 0 simulated losses. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez watched the exercise results with growing amazement. Sarah had transformed a failing training scenario into an overwhelming success through superior tactical thinking and technical expertise. He realized that his squadron had been given one of the Air Force's most talented pilots, and she was being wasted on routine duties. That evening, Martinez called Sarah into his office for a private conversation. He admitted that he had initially viewed her assignment as a political decision designed to keep a female pilot out of real combat situations. However, her performance during the exercise had changed his perspective completely. He asked Sarah about her career goals and whether she felt ready for more challenging assignments. Sarah's response was measured and professional, but her underlying determination was unmistakable. She explained that she had always wanted to serve in frontline combat roles and felt capable of handling any mission assigned to her. She acknowledged that her current assignment provided valuable experience, but she hoped for opportunities to contribute more significantly to military operations. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez made a decision that would change everything. He contacted his former commander, General Patricia Williams, who now oversaw Pacific Theater operations. Martinez explained Sarah's exceptional capabilities and argued that her talents were being wasted in a training unit. He provided detailed performance reports and video footage from recent exercises that demonstrated her superior flying and tactical skills. General Williams had been monitoring Sarah's career from a distance. As one of the few women to reach general rank in the Air Force, she understood the challenges female pilots faced in gaining recognition and meaningful assignments. She had heard whispers about the exceptional F-35 pilot who had dominated training but been assigned to a quiet unit. The timing of Martinez's call was particularly significant. Intelligence reports indicated increasing military activity in a contested region where multiple hostile nations were testing international boundaries. Recent satellite imagery showed unusual troop movements and aircraft deployments that suggested potential conflict brewing. The Pentagon was quietly positioning assets to respond to possible aggressive actions, and they needed their best pilots available for rapid deployment. Within 2 weeks, Sarah received new orders that left her squadron mates stunned. She was being transferred to an elite F-35 squadron based at a forward operating location near potential conflict zones. The unit specialized in air superiority missions and deep strike operations behind enemy lines. Only the most skilled and experienced pilots received assignments to this squadron, and Sarah would be the first woman ever assigned to the unit. Colonel David Jackson commanded the elite squadron, with the intensity of someone who had spent his entire career preparing for real combat. He had initial reservations about accepting a female pilot into his all-male unit, but Sarah's training scores and recent performance reports were impossible to ignore. Jackson's squadron had lost 2 pilots in recent training accidents, and he needed immediate replacements who could integrate quickly into combat operations. Sarah's arrival at the new base created immediate buzz among personnel. Word had spread about her exceptional training performance and recent exercise successes, but many pilots remained skeptical. The squadron had a culture of proven combat veterans who had earned their positions through years of dangerous missions. Sarah would need to prove herself worthy of inclusion in this elite group. The squadron's aircraft were configured differently. From Sarah's previous F-35s, these jets carried live weapons, systems, and advanced electronic warfare equipment designed for real combat operations. The maintenance crews worked around the clock to keep aircraft mission ready, and the pilots maintained constant readiness for deployment orders. The atmosphere was professional but tense, with everyone understanding that war could begin at any moment. Sarah's first few weeks involved intensive briefings on current threat assessments and tactical procedures specific to the squadron's mission areas. She studied enemy aircraft capabilities, surface-to-air missile systems, and electronic warfare tactics that hostile forces might employ. The intelligence officers painted a sobering picture of advanced enemy capabilities and the dangers facing pilots in modern aerial combat training. Flights in her new squadron pushed Sarah harder than anything she had experienced previously. The scenarios involved realistic enemy threats, electronic jamming, and complex tactical situations that required split-second decision-making. Colonel Jackson personally flew against Sarah in training exercises, testing her reactions and tactical thinking under pressure. His evaluations were demanding but fair, and he gradually began recognizing her exceptional abilities. The breakthrough moment came during a large-scale training exercise involving multiple squadrons and simulated enemy forces. Sarah was assigned to a 4-aircraft formation tasked with establishing air superiority over a contested region. The exercise included realistic enemy aircraft, surface-to-air missiles, and electronic warfare systems designed to challenge even experienced pilots. Within minutes of entering the exercise area, Sarah's formation encountered a numerically superior enemy force equipped with advanced aircraft and weapons systems. The formation leader called for defensive positioning and requested additional support. Standard tactics suggested avoiding engagement until reinforcements arrived or the odds improved. Sarah quickly analyzed the tactical situation and identified weaknesses in the enemy formation. She requested permission to implement an alternative approach that would use the F-35 stealth capabilities and advanced sensors to achieve surprise. Her plan involved separating enemy aircraft and engaging them individually before they could coordinate effective responses. Colonel Jackson, monitoring the exercise from ground control, initially hesitated to approve Sarah's unconventional tactics. The approach was aggressive and carried significant risks if executed poorly. However, Sarah's confidence and detailed tactical analysis convinced him to authorize the attempt. What happened next would become legendary within the squadron. Sarah led her formation in a perfectly executed stealth approach that caught enemy forces completely off guard. Using terrain masking and electronic warfare techniques, she positioned her aircraft for simultaneous attacks from multiple directions. The F-35's advanced targeting systems allowed precise coordination that overwhelmed enemy defenses before they could respond effectively. The simulated battle lasted only 12 minutes, but Sarah's formation achieved complete air superiority against superior numbers. Enemy aircraft were systematically eliminated through superior tactics and coordination. Ground controllers monitoring the exercise struggled to believe the results, checking their systems multiple times to confirm the outcome. Colonel Jackson landed his observation aircraft with a mixture of amazement and professional satisfaction. He had witnessed tactical excellence that exceeded anything he had seen from pilots with years of combat experience. Sarah's performance demonstrated not just individual skill, but the kind of innovative thinking that could revolutionize aerial warfare tactics. The call came at 0347 hours on a Tuesday morning that would forever change military history. Sarah was awakened by the urgent tone reserved for immediate combat alerts. Intelligence agencies had detected a massive enemy air assault developing against Allied positions in a strategic region. Multiple hostile nations had coordinated a surprise attack involving over 60 military aircraft, including advanced fighters and bombers targeting critical infrastructure. Colonel Jackson's voice over the base communication system was calm but urgent. All available F-35s were being scrambled for immediate deployment to counter the surprise attack. Initial reports suggested that forward air bases were being overwhelmed by the coordinated assault, and every available pilot was needed to prevent a complete breakthrough of Allied air defenses. Sarah dressed quickly and raced to the flight line where ground crews were frantically preparing aircraft for combat operations. Her F-35 was loaded with a full complement of air-to-air missiles and additional fuel tanks for extended range operations. The aircraft's systems had been optimized for air superiority missions, with advanced radar configurations and electronic warfare capabilities activated. The briefing was necessarily quick due to time constraints. Intelligence officers explained that enemy forces had launched a 3-pronged aerial assault designed to overwhelm regional air defenses. The attack included advanced stealth aircraft, electronic warfare planes, and conventional fighters operating in coordinated formations. Allied forces were outnumbered approximately 3-1, and several forward bases had already gone silent. Sarah's squadron would be part of the first response wave, tasked with intercepting enemy aircraft before they could reach their primary targets. The mission parameters were sobering. Establish air superiority against numerically superior forces while protecting ground installations and civilian populations. Failure would likely result in a strategic breakthrough that could destabilize the entire region. As Sarah climbed into her F-35's cockpit, she felt the familiar surge of focus that came with serious combat situations. Her hands moved automatically through pre-flight procedures, while her mind processed tactical considerations. The enemy had achieved surprise and numerical advantage, but the F-35's stealth capabilities and advanced sensors might provide opportunities for asymmetric engagement. The flight to the combat zone took 45 minutes over dark ocean waters. Sarah's formation maintained radio silence while monitoring intelligence updates about the developing battle. Reports indicated that enemy aircraft were systematically attacking radar installations and communication centers, attempting to blind Allied forces before the main assault began. Sarah's first visual contact with enemy aircraft came as dawn broke over the contested region. Her F-35's advanced sensors detected multiple aircraft formations approaching from different directions. The scope of the enemy operation became immediately apparent. This was not a limited strike, but a comprehensive attempt to achieve air superiority through overwhelming force. Colonel Jackson's voice crackled over the radio with deployment orders. Sarah's 4-aircraft formation would engage the northern enemy group, while other squadrons addressed threats from different directions. The initial enemy formation included 12 advanced fighters, escorted by electronic warfare aircraft, designed to disrupt Allied communications and targeting systems. Sarah quickly analyzed the enemy formation and identified tactical vulnerabilities. The escort aircraft were positioned to provide maximum electronic protection, but were themselves vulnerable to attacks from unexpected angles. She requested permission to implement a modified version of the tactics that had proven successful. During training exercises, the engagement began with Sarah's formation using stealth approaches to position themselves advantageously relative to enemy aircraft. The F-35's low radar signatures allowed them to close distance without detection, while the enemy formation continued toward their assigned targets. Sarah coordinated with her wingmen through short-range communications that avoided enemy electronic warfare systems. Sarah's first missile launch caught the enemy formation completely by surprise. Her target, an advanced enemy fighter, exploded in a brilliant fireball that alerted other aircraft to the presence of Allied forces. However, the confusion and surprise gave Sarah's formation crucial seconds to engage additional targets before enemy aircraft could coordinate responses. The aerial battle that followed was unlike anything Sarah had experienced in training. Enemy aircraft maneuvered aggressively, while electronic warfare systems attempted to disrupt her targeting systems. Multiple aircraft engaged simultaneously while surface-to-air missiles launched from hidden positions created additional threats that required constant maneuvering. Sarah's exceptional situational awareness proved crucial in the chaotic environment. She tracked multiple threats while coordinating attacks with her wingmen and adapting tactics as the battle evolved. Her calm communication and tactical decisions helped her formation maintain cohesion, while enemy aircraft struggled to coordinate effectively under pressure. Within the first 10 minutes of engagement, Sarah's formation had eliminated 6 enemy aircraft while suffering no losses. Her innovative use of stealth positioning and coordinated attacks disrupted enemy tactical plans and created opportunities for additional Allied aircraft to join the battle effectively as more Allied reinforcements arrived. Sarah found herself naturally assuming coordination responsibilities for multiple formations. Her clear tactical thinking and superior understanding of F-35 capabilities made her an effective battlefield commander, despite her relatively junior rank. She guided other pilots through complex intercept patterns while continuing to engage enemy aircraft personally. The aerial battle reached its climax when Sarah detected a formation of 8 enemy bombers approaching critical infrastructure targets. These aircraft carried conventional and potentially nuclear weapons, capable of devastating civilian populations and military installations. Standard intercept procedures would require multiple squadrons working in coordination, but reinforcements were engaged elsewhere and wouldn't arrive in time. Sarah made a decision that would define her military legacy. She requested permission to engage the bomber formation with only her remaining wingmen, using tactics that had never been attempted in actual combat. Colonel Jackson, monitoring communications from his command aircraft, initially refused the request due to overwhelming odds and extreme danger involved. However, Intelligence reports confirmed that the bomber formation would reach its targets within 12 minutes, and no other Allied aircraft were positioned to intercept effectively. Sarah's calm analysis of the tactical situation and her confidence in unconventional approaches convinced Jackson to authorize the desperate attempt. The alternative was accepting catastrophic damage to Allied positions and civilian areas. Sarah and her wingman approached the enemy bomber formation, using maximum stealth capabilities and terrain masking. The F-35s flew at extremely low altitude, using mountains and valleys to avoid radar detection while closing distance rapidly. Her plan required precise timing and perfect coordination to succeed against such overwhelming numbers. The bombers were protected by 4 escort fighters positioned to defend against conventional intercept approaches. Sarah identified weaknesses in their formation and planned a simultaneous attack from multiple vectors that would overwhelm defensive responses. Her wingman would engage escort aircraft while Sarah targeted the bombers directly. The attack began with Sarah's wingman launching missiles at the escort fighters from maximum range. The surprise assault immediately disrupted enemy formation integrity and forced defensive maneuvering that separated protecting aircraft from the bombers they were assigned to defend. Sarah used this confusion to position herself for attacks against the primary targets. Sarah's first missile destroyed the lead bomber in a spectacular explosion that sent debris across the formation. Her second and third missiles eliminated additional bombers before enemy aircraft could coordinate effective defensive responses. The remaining bombers attempted to disperse while escort fighters tried to locate and engage the attacking F-35s. What followed was the most intense aerial combat of Sarah's career. Enemy aircraft maneuvered desperately while launching missiles and attempting to complete their bombing mission, despite ongoing attacks. Sarah found herself simultaneously engaging multiple targets while avoiding surface-to-air missiles and coordinating with her wingman through encrypted communications. Her exceptional flying skills and tactical thinking proved decisive in the chaotic engagement. She used the F-35's advanced maneuverability and stealth characteristics to maintain offensive pressure while avoiding enemy defensive fire. Her precise missile employment and superior positioning allowed her to eliminate targets systematically, despite being outnumbered 4-1. Within 8 minutes, Sarah had personally destroyed 6 enemy bombers and assisted in eliminating 2 escort fighters. The remaining enemy aircraft, their mission compromised and their formation shattered, attempted to withdraw from the combat zone. Sarah pursued the retreating aircraft, determined to prevent any possibility of them reaching alternative targets. Her final engagement involved a running battle with the last enemy bomber and its remaining escort. The enemy pilots fought desperately, using every tactical maneuver and defensive system available to escape. Sarah's relentless pursuit and superior aircraft capabilities eventually prevailed, and both enemy aircraft were destroyed before reaching safety. As Sarah's F-35 climbed away from the engagement area, she conducted a quick assessment of her aircraft systems and remaining weapons. She had expended nearly all her missiles and was running low on fuel, but her aircraft remained undamaged despite the intense combat. Her wingman confirmed that all enemy bombers had been eliminated and the immediate threat, neutralized radio communications exploded with congratulations and disbelief from Allied forces monitoring the engagement. Sarah had achieved what military analysts would later describe as impossible. A single pilot had destroyed or assisted in destroying 18 enemy aircraft in one operation. The tactical innovation and exceptional flying skill demonstrated during the battle would become required study material at military academies. Worldwide, Colonel Jackson's voice over the radio was filled with professional admiration and personal pride. Sarah's performance had exceeded every expectation and demonstrated capabilities that redefined what was possible in modern aerial combat. Her tactical thinking, technical expertise, and calm execution under extreme pressure had prevented a potential military disaster. The aftermath of Sarah's legendary combat performance brought immediate recognition and career advancement. Military leaders who had previously doubted female pilots' combat effectiveness were forced to acknowledge her exceptional achievements. She received the highest military decorations and was promoted to squadron command positions, typically reserved for much more senior officers. More importantly, Sarah's success opened doors for other female pilots who had been overlooked or assigned to secondary roles. Her combat record became proof that pilot effectiveness depended on skill and dedication rather than gender. leading to policy changes that provided equal opportunities for qualified personnel, regardless of their background. Sarah continued her military career with the same dedication and professionalism that had defined her rise to prominence. She became a mentor for young pilots and an advocate for merit-based assignments throughout the Air Force. Her combat tactics were studied and adopted by military forces worldwide, and her story inspired a generation of aviators who refused to accept artificial limitations on their potential achievements.